Samurai versus Knight. Who would win a duel? Welcome back to Bright Minds Station, where history comes alive through thrilling showdowns and fascinating facts. Today, we're stepping into a battlefield of imagination as we compare two of history's most iconic warriors, the samurai of feudal Japan and the knight of medieval Europe. These fighters represent the peak of martial excellence from two different worlds. But in a head-to-head duel, who would win? Let's break it down by examining their training, armor, weapons, and tactics. Stick around as we dive deep into this historical face-off. Before we dive into this epic face-off, make sure to hit that like button if you love legendary warrior battles, and subscribe for more epic showdowns every week. The Way of the Samurai. The samurai were members of the Japanese warrior class who served their lords with complete loyalty and discipline. From an early age, samurai children were trained in the arts of combat, including swordsmanship, archery, and horseback riding. Their training was intense and lifelong, shaping them into masters of precision and control. Central to the samurai's identity was the Bushido code, a way of life that emphasized honor, courage, self-discipline, and a readiness to die for their duty. In terms of protection, samurai wore lightweight but sturdy armor crafted from lacquered plates of metal or leather, which were carefully bound together with silk cords for flexibility and mobility. The katana, a curved and incredibly sharp sword, was their weapon of choice. It was designed for swift, clean cuts and was paired with other tools like the yumi, bow, yari, spear, and naginata, polearm. Agility and calculated precision were the core strengths that made samurai formidable warriors on the battlefield. The rise of the medieval knight. Knights were the elite mounted warriors of medieval Europe, rising through a long path of training that began in childhood. Young boys first became pages, then squires, and eventually earned knighthood through demonstrations of skill and valor. Their education included sword fighting, jousting, horse riding, and even courtly etiquette. Knights followed the code of chivalry, which upheld values like honor, bravery, and the defense of the weak and innocent. They wore full suits of plate armor that covered the body from head to toe, offering incredible protection against most attacks, though it could be heavy and slightly restrict movement. In battle, knights wielded a variety of weapons suited to close combat, including longswords, maces, lances, and warhammers, all designed to crush or pierce armor. Known for their strength, endurance, and resilience, knights were a dominating force on medieval battlefields. Comparing their signature weapons. When it comes to weaponry, the contrast between the samurai and the knight is striking. The katana, used by samurai, is a razor-sharp, single-edged sword with a curved blade perfect for slashing. It allowed for quick, fluid movements and was especially effective against lightly armored opponents. However, its cutting power struggled against heavy armor. The knight's longsword, on the other hand, was a double-edged, straight-bladed weapon built for both cutting and thrusting. It was balanced, versatile, and capable of inflicting serious damage against various types of protection, especially when aimed at weak points. While the katana embodied elegance and technique, the longsword was designed for raw battlefield adaptability and force, armor protection, and mobility. The armor worn by each warrior reveals much about their combat style. Samurai armor, known as oyoroi or dumaru, was built with flexibility in mind. Made from small iron or leather plates laced together, it allowed for quick movements, especially important during horseback archery or fast duels. While it provided solid protection against arrows and blades, it was more vulnerable to blunt force attacks. In contrast, the knight's plate armor was a marvel of medieval engineering. Crafted from large steel plates, it offered full body coverage and could withstand slashes, stabs, and even some projectile strikes. However, its heavy weight limited the wearer's agility and could cause fatigue in extended battles. The choice of armor reflects a core difference. Samurai relied on mobility and precision, while knights relied on defense and durability, combat tactics, and battle strategy. The samurai and knight approached combat with vastly different strategies shaped by their cultures. Samurai combat was often ritualized, with emphasis on honor and one-on-one duels. Their tactics prioritized speed, timing, and exploiting weaknesses in an opponent's guard. Samurai preferred swift engagements and used their training to strike accurately and retreat quickly if needed. Knights, however, were trained for prolonged, brutal combat. They relied on strength and stamina to deliver overwhelming blows and endure attacks. In both individual duels and mass battles, knights trusted their armor to absorb damage while they closed in to deliver crushing strikes. The samurai fought with elegance and speed. The knight brought unrelenting power and endurance. The duel, one-on-one, showdown. If we imagine a one-on-one duel between a samurai and a knight, several factors come into play. The samurai would likely attempt to keep the fight quick and fluid, aiming precise strikes at the knight's joints and armor gaps. Using agility and timing, the samurai might try to end the fight before the knight's strength could take over. The knight, in turn, would aim to close the distance, absorb the early blows, and land a powerful hit that could end the duel in an instant. The outcome could be shaped by the environment. Open fields would favor the knight's charge and heavy armor, while narrow or uneven terrain could give the samurai a tactical edge. A longer duel might also wear down the knight faster due to the weight of his armor, providing an opportunity for the more mobile samurai to strike. But all it would take is one clean blow from the knight to turn the tide. Warrior philosophy: honor versus glory. The core values that shaped the samurai and knight were deeply embedded in their respective cultures and played a significant role in how they approached combat. Samurai lived by Bushido, a code that emphasized honor, loyalty, and self-discipline. For them, death was preferable to dishonor, and many would rather fall by their own sword than bring shame to their clan. On the other hand, knights were bound by chivalry, a code that promoted bravery, service to the church, and the protection of the innocent. While both systems demanded courage and loyalty, the samurai's path was more introspective and spiritual, whereas the knight's journey was often tied to religious duty and feudal service. In a duel, this contrast in philosophy could influence their mindset, one fighting with Zen-like focus, the other with righteous fervor. Mounts of war, horses in combat. Both the samurai and the knight relied heavily on horses during warfare, and their mounts were as crucial to their battle readiness as their armor or weapons. Samurai horses were smaller and more agile, trained for archery and fast skirmishes across the uneven terrain of Japan. These steeds allowed samurai to remain quick and responsive, executing hit-and-run tactics or firing arrows while riding. European knights, however, rode massive war horses bred for strength and stamina, sometimes armored themselves, capable of charging into enemy lines with overwhelming force. A mounted knight could become a one-man wrecking ball, whereas the samurai's approach on horseback was built around precision and movement. In an open-field duel with mounts, the knight might dominate with brute power, but in dense or broken terrain, the samurai could outmaneuver him with superior agility. Duel ethics: how battles began and ended. The very idea of a duel, how it was started, fought, and resolved, was different for samurai and knights. In Japanese culture, a duel might begin with a formal bow, a show of mutual respect, and a lightning-fast series of strikes meant to end things quickly and decisively. The goal was not drawn-out battle, but a test of skill and precision. Knights, however, often treated duels as contests of endurance and strength. When comparing the samurai and the knight, it's clear that each warrior possessed unique strengths. The samurai was agile, fast, and lethal in precise combat. The knight was powerful, armored, and unyielding in direct engagements. Rather than declaring one a clear winner, it's more accurate to say the duel's outcome would depend on the individual's skill levels, the terrain, and the timing of their attacks. Both warriors represent the pinnacle of martial tradition in their respective cultures. One honed through the discipline of Bushido, the other through the might of chivalry. It's a clash of styles, philosophies, and legacies. And that's what makes it one of the greatest what-if battles in history. If you enjoyed this journey through history's greatest mysteries, please like the video and subscribe for more amazing stories every week. Thanks for watching,